Potential is our drug of choice. It's the perfect drug, honestly, especially for thoughtful people, for creators, because it gives you identity, it gives you myth, it gives you a sense of, I am meant for something, without requiring you to actually do anything yet. And if this is sounding familiar, it's probably because you've been living off of it for a while now. But the truly intoxicating part is the less you touch it, the less you risk it. The less you go out and try to make shit real, the more perfect it stays. And then it becomes like a mythological someday that you can just carry around in your pocket. And that is a crack pipe, because it keeps you fully intact while feeling special, and it protects you from the messiness of reality. The beautiful concept. Potential is a really beautiful concept. That's a part of the problem. It's delicate. It feels like something that you could just ruin by handling it wrong, like a porcelain thing that we keep on the shelf and never touch. You start treating yourself like that, and you get careful, you get delicate, and you start protecting the idea instead of fully living inside of it. Because once you act, once you actually move toward it, the concept fractures, and what replaces it isn't beautiful anymore. It's human, it's flawed, it's limited, it's clumsy, and that scares people more than failing, when not working becomes home. At a certain point, nothing working becomes very normal, becomes familiar, becomes kind of the atmosphere, and you start narrating it, giving it context, giving it time. I'm still early, things are still forming, I'm still learning a lot. Things don't feel fucked up enough to demand a decision. So things not working kind of becomes where you live, and becomes a holding pattern where nothing actually has to collapse. Nothing hardens into fact. Nothing forces you to see where you actually are. You don't have to confront limits. You don't have to confront trade-offs. You don't have to confront that ugly version of yourself that only shows up in the attempt. So you guard the potential instead of stepping into what would reshape it. If you're stuck inside a precious potential bubble, that's why I built the silencer. It breaks the loop without turning your life into hustle porn. Check it out below. High functioning procrastination. This is how you become a high functioning procrastinator with purpose. You think deeply, you build meaning around everything. You mythologize the path so much that starting feels impossible. You build a massive golden wall surrounding your potential, and you stare up at it like, oh yeah, I don't even know where to start. So you don't. And you just keep thinking, you keep refining, you keep circling. And I think for a lot of us, potential becomes a sort of anesthesia. Why it feels so good. There's a neurological reason why this is addictive. Basically, your limbic system lights up more for anticipation than for reward. The chase hits you a lot harder than the arrival. So the fantasy of future you, the version who has it all figured out, the version who finally arrives, that becomes the dopamine source, not the actual doing. You stay in anticipation, you stay in potential. And because of that imbalance, you're literally rewarded for not becoming yet, for staying just outside the moment where identity would actually have to change. Readiness is the wrong frame. Most people think this is a readiness problem. I need more time. I'm not in the right place. Things haven't shifted fully. Carl Jung saw this a lot differently, and I wanted to bring him up here because he saw unreadiness as potential energy. Your unconscious basically having not fully integrated old stores of power and energy that you have, a youthful bravado, like an unhinged solar fuck you inherent, yo, I belong on the field. I've had a reoccurring dream surrounding unreadiness since I was a teenager. When I was in sports, it was always a huge game starting without me, and I couldn't find the right piece of gear in order to step onto the field, and I let everyone down. Now in musician life, it's the same dream, but I'm like trapped in a tiny closet on the tour bus, or there are music cables wrapped around my legs, and I'm letting everyone down. This continued feeling of trying to earn readiness. And I think what my psyche is showing me is that I can't earn readiness. I just have to try my best to remember it. Exile energy. This part's even more personal for me. I was a middle child, a little outside the circle. I always felt like I had to be extra in order to belong. And I think that a lot of creative people feel that way, and they develop outsider energy. And I think that when that's healthy, when that's integrated, that becomes perspective and that becomes vision. But when it's not, it becomes a little bit poisonous, and it can become just full-on martyrdom. You stand in the woods like watching The Village, like describing the fire, instead of sitting around it with your people. I think that the wolf has to eventually walk back, not to surrender, but to just bring something back. And I think that all of that potential, it can keep you exiled. And I think the real call is to let go so that you can actually re-enter into what is reality. Shattering the fantasy. Eventually, there's a question that you can't avoid. Do you want the illusion of your potential to remain intact? If you do, that's totally understandable. There's a lot of sweetness to what could have been. But if you want a life and not a concept, the fantasy has to break, and you show up unfinished, unpolished, with your freckles and your warts and your tiredness and your ordinariness, and that hurts because that beautiful potential has to die. But it dies so that something real can come take its place. Remembering, you're never going to feel ready, and that part's not going to change. Readiness cannot be earned. It's something that you have to remember that you've always had. You had it a long time ago, before you learned how to hesitate, before you learned how to withhold permission from yourself, and staying when the illusion of your potential warps, staying when things get quieter, staying when that peace feels unfamiliar. That's it. That's when it starts. That's when potential stops being a drug and it starts being your actual life. That's it for this one, my friend. I believe in you. I think you dig this one next.